Yo, pump it up. It's time for the news. Yo, we getting ready to bring you the news, boy. You need to know it.
5, 4. Welcome to another episode of Open Run. This is the podcast where we talk about youth sports and sports in general. All right, so this week's topic, we're going to speak about the state that the country's in right now and the effects that it's having on youth sports, sports in general, and just life in general. All right. So we have on our panel today, we're going to go ahead and let Mr. Arroyo go ahead and introduce everybody because he's going to lead this discussion today.
All right. So, of course, you got me, Skills Center Elite Director, as Joe would call it, most outspoken, not just about sports, but about everything. We got player development all over the world, Chris Ward. And then we got Dre, Albany, Georgia, 4-time state champion. Then we got my man Joe Philon, kicking his ball basketball coach we got in the city of Tampa and all over Florida.
I kicked one ball. I kicked one ball.
That ball gonna follow you for the rest of your life. And then we got my family, man. We got Kendell Jasper, Dr. Kendell Jasper. He actually, we go way back, man. He's my brother. He's a rookie transition program consultant. He addresses mental health issues. He's been on the Breakfast Club. He's been on many different shows. People call him to help, regardless if it's life or dealing with sports. He's even worked with current NBA players right now with the rookie transition of the NBA. So he's been around for a little while and played at UNC Charlotte. Big time just about sports, but in general, he's big time in the mental health because that's a big problem. So we brought him on because I think he got a lot of knowledge of things going on. Welcome, Kendell.
Thanks for having me, bro.
So, man, I'm gonna kick it off as what happened this week. Well, what happened, I guess, a week ago, in reference to Mr. Floyd and the murder with the police officers and the just how the state of the country is doing and how people are reacting. My opinion, it's bad, and what I saw this weekend, it's never been as close to me as it has been. My goddaughter went to the protest, and I told her when I seen her on the news, and I told her, I said, yo, proud of you, but be careful because you never know what could happen. And the whole family was like, man, we proud of her. She's always fighting for the right, making sure that minorities have a voice and things like that. But on the flip side, that night, as soon as it turned 6 o'clock, things got out of hand. And I just wanted to talk about why you think that is, what can change, and what do we do for our children now? Like, how do we talk to our kids? What are y'all thoughts?
Well, for me, I set out here Saturday morning, and me and my wife said I was gonna come out here, have a cigar, have a cup of coffee, and just relax. And the first thing popped on, but was the news, the local news, and I'm seeing all this chaos. CNN, ABC, wherever you go, all this chaos as far as the looting, burning down stuff. It was just sad. And I just said to Annalisa, I said, before I knew it hit here, I think somebody put it in a tweet, before I knew it hit here, I said to Annalisa, I said, man, we have to do something here and prepare people here to respond in a different way before it hits here. And then I think it was Joe or Dre put something in the group text stating, hey, they looted in Tampa, or something was going on. I was like, man, this is amazing. The one thing I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. And I do really believe I have to tread lightly because we do work in an area where we work with kids and we can't get into politics and we can't get into religions and things like that. But we have to take a stand because we're big on community. So, I truly believe that we have to educate from within. And we have to prepare from within to go out and fight for this, to prepare our people for this, because it's not going to go away. If we don't prepare people for things like this and how to respond and how to react, it's going to continue to happen. And that you can go to voting, you can go to whatever, but it's just You know, it's a time for white people to use white privilege. If you have some white friends, this is time for them to speak out. If you got some white coaches, this is time for them to speak out. You know, if you have some people that say they're down for the cause, this is a time for them to have a voice and change things. It can be changed. We know enough people where it can be changed. So that's my approach to it. That's how I feel about it. You know, this is time for people to step up. And as an organization, whether it's youth-based, whether it's sports, whatever it may be, we're an impact community. I mean, we're a community program. We impact people's community. We have to have a voice in it too. And we have to be able to say something, and we have to be prepared to say something. And whether backlash comes to it, it comes to it, as long as we speak out for what we believe in.
Kendell, down there in Charlotte, you're in Charlotte right now, and I agree exactly what Chris is saying. And you've been around all kinds of different cities. You've dealt with all kinds of different groups. How do you feel? So we're all in an organization with the Skills Center, and we're, in our opinion, we're a big part of this community. How do you think we should stake our ground and help our community and our kids?
Well, I mean, it obviously, if it wasn't COVID-19, it'd be a little easier to do, right? Because people would be congregating. You can be able to, you can have an audience with all of your kids, all of their parents, you know, to kind of reemphasize what your philosophy is, what the organization stands for, what you all as men to the organization stand for, you know, as being well-respected individuals, and then they'll take notice and they'll listen, they follow suit, right? Because a lot of times, believe it or not, you're not only coaches to the kids, but you're often coaches to their parents, right? And you become someone that they lean on and they trust, because they trust you with, you know, their most precious commodity, which is their children. You know, so I think that with that being said, there's still an opportunity to be able to be very present in terms of your communication, you know, checking in on them, you know, reemphasizing the importance of them making the best, you know, choices available to them, but also allowing them the opportunity to express themselves. You know, the hardest part of all of this is when things like this happen, you know, everybody wants to tell Black people how they should feel, right? People are good at telling all these Black folks, this is how you should feel. This is how you should react. This is how you should respond. And the reality is that itself speaks a sense of entitlement. Like, you can't necessarily tell me how to feel, because I'm not you and you aren't me, right? We might be able to set some boundaries and parameters around our behavior, but not how we emotionally respond to it. And a lot of people are so fed up emotionally that they're using that as the justification for, you know, for the way that they respond, right? And it's not always right, but, like, you know, we also have to be real. My personal self and my professional self merge on the idea that we've got to be brutally honest with the fact that how much more of this can people continue to take without having a very sharp and visceral reaction to it? How much more, right? How often do we have to see the trauma of another minority, another Black man getting killed by those who are supposed to be committed to protect and serve us as the community, especially in situations where we haven't done anything wrong, where it isn't just.
Right.
So you have folks who want their voices heard. And then you compound that with the fact that we've done a lot of talking, right? How much more talking can we do? If we're on a basketball court, right? Let's say we're in a park, right? And you talking to a dude, right? Or you and a guy talking trash to each other, right? And he keep putting his hands on you, right? He keep touching you, keep fouling you, keep putting his hands on you, right? At some point, you're going to be like, yo, fam, enough is enough, right? Like, listen, bro, keep touching me like that. It's going to end up in a certain way. I'm going to foul you real hard, which may lead to an altercation, right? Because I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to leave the court Or I'm gonna be like, yo, bro, we can put this ball down. We're gonna have to figure this out a different way. Because obviously this is personal and this is about something else. Right or wrong? Right? Kids don't really get that because they in the gym.
They don't think about it like that. You're right.
They in the gym. They doing a lot more working out. They ain't going to nobody parks. Right? But for all of us, you in the park, somebody like, yo, fam, listen, man, you put your hands on me one more time. We're going to have a problem.
Right.
That's where we are. That's exactly where we are.
So listen, what do we tell our kids? Like, Joe, when you first heard this, what did you go home and did you talk to Lil Jojo? Did you explain to him what's going on? How do you do it?
Initially, I didn't. I didn't speak to him. I was talking to my man, D.D. Solomon, and he was telling me he talked to his kids and his son, and he was asking me what did JoJo say. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I didn't talk to JoJo about it. And so then he was like, man, talk to him, man. So, and JoJo, we've been talking, I've been talking to him on a real high level about this type of thing at a very young age when I had him in Brandon Academy. And I picked him up from school one day, and he told me, he got in the car and he said, I wish I was white. And I almost lost my mind, I almost whooped him. But I started talking to him back then because, the schools that I had him in and, weren't schools that had a lot of kids that looked like him. So we've always been talking. So we hadn't done it in a while. So I had the conversation with him. And to my surprise, through social media and stuff, he was kind of locked in. He knew everything that had got looted. He knew about the mobile gas station, the mall, the Shoe Mountain. He's actually the guy Reef. Shoe Mountain is actually a black-owned organization that they hit pretty hard.
Right.
Reef is actually a guy that when he had the Shoe Mountain on this side of town, JoJo would go in there all the time and they would chop it up, and he would give JoJo some free merchandise sometimes. So. So JoJo knew about all of that, and so and we talked about it. We've always had conversations about anytime you go to a store, you get your receipt. I don't care what your friends do, you make sure you have your receipt, whatever you buy. Just small things like that. That some people it might not mean anything to, but to him he has to do things differently. He'll be going to Tampa Prep next year. That's a completely different environment. A lot of kids can't relate to what he relates to. So he needs to know and understand these things. And, I just think it's very unfortunate, but I was very pleased that he's been following, but he understands. And so the biggest thing that he said was, I understand the protest when it's peaceful, but the looting and all of that stuff, he was like, I can't really get with that. I can't respect that. And this is a 13-year-old, you know what I'm saying?
Right. No, that's pretty deep for a 13-year-old. Yeah.
Right. And that's what he said. And, and I agree with him. I agree. I agree to a point.
Dre, you a coach, been a coach for a long time. You're in the school system. Every race looks up to you. So how do you feel, and how do you talk to your kids, and how do you, if there's been a lot of stuff on Instagram and on Facebook where, and this is not a white and black thing in my opinion, so I want to put that out there, but there's been pictures of white kids taking pictures of with their knee on top of another white kid, thinking it's a joke.
It is a white black thing.
Okay.
It is what it is.
I'm just saying this show right here, we're not attacking that. But Dre, how do you feel?
No, we're attacking the truth though. We have to attack the truth.
No, I 100% agree.
The truth. And the whole point, John, and this is just me, and I do apologize.
No,
we have to make people uncomfortable. Like, we really do have to make people uncomfortable. Because anytime you get pulled over, how uncomfortable are you?
Nervous as hell.
Like I'm saying, so you have to make people uncomfortable. This is how you find out who's with you and who's not with you.
Well, let me say this, Chris, and then we'll get right to Dre. Why should we as an organization, like, I agree with you. Sometimes I can't post political stuff. Sometimes I can't like something because of even though I agree with it at times. Why do you think we can't do that? If we want to keep it real, keep it 100. Why can't we do that?
Kendell got.
Well, we can't do that because we're the only people that have to apologize for the stance that we take, Johnny. That's why. It's inherent in 400 plus years of enslavement of people of color, right? So you can do that because the majority does it all day, every day, right? And they don't expect to suffer as a result of it. But us, right? Mentally, in our minds, we feel like, well, if we take this stance, people are going to view us as extremists or being militant. And we can't afford that because we feel like we're playing from behind anyway, right? Because guess what? We have to be twice or 10 times as good to get the same opportunity, right? So you can, right? But you're led to believe that you can't take a stance and or position. And more often than not, the stance or position that you're taking is in fact the correct one. If we are seeing that people are getting treated unfairly and there's injustice and there's discrimination and racism going on, that is the proper side of the tracks to be on, right? And when we say we don't want to tolerate it or we can't afford to tolerate it, because we find ourselves in situations like these, we get labeled as someone who is looking to be divisive or create division. No, we're talking about unity here. And we can't get there without having an uncomfortable discussion about the forces that exist that are in fact creating the division to begin with.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Agree. Yeah. You're right. Dre, jump in there.
So, I have 2 young boys, and it'd be a teachable moment every time something happens, all the way from the Trayvon era and all this type of stuff. And not only to them, it's to my classes also, because I'm a driver's ed instructor. So we have to teach them how to conduct themselves when they're pulled over by an officer, the right way. But everything is a teachable moment as far as my kids is understood. And I just allow them, just expect this to happen. But this is the way that you're gonna have to act. Because every reaction, there's a reaction. So you giving people your butt to kiss and they got the upper hand on you, you're asking for trouble. And I've been in situations where it could have went bad, being pulled over by the police, but with me being calm and patient and doing the necessary things that I do, doing the necessary things that he asked me to do outside all the stuff, there was really no issues with that. But over the last week, I've seen CNN almost every day. So I watched all the interviews. I watched Big Killer Mike. I watched the mayor from Atlanta talk. I watched George Floyd's brother talk today. It's a difference in protesting and looting. Now, everybody is mad, including myself. So you can't tell nobody how to feel and how to react. But how are we going to get justice and bring a point across? And I think it's going to have to come from a lot of higher ups, people that don't look at us, to join us in order for that stuff to happen. And as far as protesting in front of the police station, get those bad cops out of there, because all cops are not bad, but the handful of them, majority are. Now, as far as the looting, you got people out there got their own personal reasons out there looting. Some of them are probably habitual criminals. Oh, this is my time to get back at the police. Shoot, they looting anyway. We can break into the store and we can go get clothes and all this type of stuff. But I understand the people's, outrage. Enough is enough. And where Stephen Jackson said, enough is enough. We're not gonna let this get by.
I'm glad you brought Stephen Jackson up, because I know it was his friend, but that has to be the quickest professional athlete to ever step up. And not only did he step up, to me, he kept it real, kept it 100. Last night, I don't know if y'all saw it, but I posted this thing about LL Cool J, where he said he went on a rant. And man, I agree with him, because he kind of touched me a little bit, because he was talking about, how does
That's that dollar.
Junior half black, half Puerto Rican. So what kind of conversation do mixed parents have? Huh? What he said?
You froze, dog. You
Boy,
froze.
that boy got that DSL, that dial-up, baby.
Am I good? Am I good? Am I back? Am I back?
Yeah,
Good.
you good now. You last thing we heard you say was LL Cool J and
It's hard as
hard
hell.
as
No, I'm
hell.
joking.
but you were saying that you coming from a mixed race, we didn't capture.
Okay. So it's like, having that conversation, because he said, everything, people went at him when he said, how do a mixed family speak to their kids? And people said, oh, you're trying to cover up for them. You're not worried about the thing. But he said, in order to solve the issue, you got to understand every aspect of it. Don't just understand the whole thing. So my question, like when it happened, I showed Junior his god sister out there protesting. So right away he was like, Black power, Black power, Black power. And I was like, look, you first, before you say it, you got to understand what that means and what they're talking about. Don't just say it to say it. So I told him, I said, imagine if I go out there right now, it was Saturday night, imagine if I drive over there on Fowler and it's just me by myself. Some people may smash my car. Some people may smash my window because of what I look like. Now, majority of people don't think I'm white, but some people do. So I don't know, like what Jay was talking about, we got to figure out how to do it, what is right. I don't think nobody knows. We can't control how people feel. But what are some solutions? What are some solutions?
But John, this one is a little bit different from anyone I've ever seen. Now, I've seen, not in person, but just on CNN and watching a lot of these different riots or what have you. And this one, it ain't all black. This one, you might be good riding through there in your car and jump out and grab yourself too. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a little bit of everybody out there doing something. So,
that is true. That is true.
I've seen it on over in New Zealand.
Yeah.
They protesting in New Zealand saying Black Lives Matter.
Okay. And what's crazy is it's scary because Tyson's out in Vegas right now. And I'm telling him, like, bro, be careful. Be careful. Be careful where you go. Be careful, just go to the gym and go home. This dude out there, he should be living his best life. If he want to go out and have a hang out with his boys, if Vegas open back up, he should be able to do that and not be worried about getting stopped, being profiled. Like, I'm scared for my 23-year-old son out there right now. Like, I'm scared for him, bro. And that's a sad. And when I got on the phone with him, I was kind of choked up. And he's like, bro, you all right? I was like, yeah, I'm good. He's like, you sure? Because he understood how concerned I was for him. Look, I don't do anything other than love where I work and love to impact my community. That's it. I'm big on educating your community. I'm big on it. I'm big on empowering your community, educating your community, so they know how to respond, so they know how to retaliate, to get these kids understanding the education and the knowledge of things. Like, I'm big on that. But if the other side is not doing the same thing, what's the problem? Like, the other side is not doing the same thing. It's just not happening. They're not having these conversations. And me and Annalisa going back from CNN to Fox, it's a whole different conversation on Fox. Like, it's a whole different conversation.
Fox
like,
alligators fighting in the middle of the golf course. Like, they don't real talk. They don't even be covering, like, what's going on. You feel like you living in two different worlds or two different Americas if you watch Fox, MSNBC, and CNN. CNN and MSNBC are closely aligned. Fox be on something totally different, right? And we
and it took 45 2 days.
Exactly. Obviously the low-hanging fruit becomes the rioting and the looting and the violence, right? I would reiterate what Joe said. Number one, it ain't all us, right? That's number one. Number two, how about we be more outraged about the fact that a man lost his life over a $20 bill that wasn't even his than we are about people destroying property. Because if we're more outraged and address the first one, then we're probably not even talking about the second one at all. Because the first one would be minimized or get to a point where it would cease to exist. Period. So we can't, you know, it's if you're more outraged about people burning down a Target than you are about a man losing his life, then we have, without cause, there's no need to have your knee on a man's neck for 9 minutes. For almost three of those 9 minutes.
See, and then the thing that kind of gets you angry, but you have to control your emotions. You go back to the kid that shot up the church, harmless. I seen a video the other day where a white dude was out there with an axe. You got police right there with the gun, and he coming towards them, and this, that, and the other, and they do anything. Then there was a traffic stop where guys outside the car being threatening and all this type of stuff. Cop don't even pull his gun out to do anything. Dude gets in his truck and almost run him over. And he gets in the car and goes chase him. So those are the things that, you know, that really bothers me, and it really puts the in social justice thing on notice.
I'll give you a perfect example. John, you remember this. Tyson's going into his senior year. And I was on the phone with him, and he was telling me somebody was tailing him.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And I left the building. And as soon as we pulled up and I go to grab the dude out the truck that was tailing him, 4 cop cars pull up out of nowhere. And this dude had called it in that my son stole some gas cans off this dude's truck.
From your neighborhood, from your own
neighborhood.
From my
neighborhood.
Right.
4 cop cars pull this 16-year-old black kid over. And it wasn't even Tyson. And then the dude tried to say, well, he had 2 friends with him. He in the car by himself. They searched his car. I told them what they were going to find. Toys in a bag, because we were getting ready to get on a flight. Annalisa put them in the truck. Put them in his car. And they were getting ready. If I wouldn't have been there, it would have been a total conversation. My son would have been locked up in handcuffs because this dude accused him of taking gas cans off this guy. And 4 cop cars? Come on, man. 4 for a young black male.
How do we get?
That's
How do we
ridiculous.
get? How do we get?
Do you mind saying what neighborhood it was in?
No. They drove from Ruskin, bro.
Yeah, from Ruskin. We caught him on 41, which is right near Tampa. 41 in Causeway. They followed him the whole way.
If it wasn't for John grabbing me, I was gonna pull that dude out and give him that business.
But this my thing. Why? Because like somebody asked the question, do you guys get nervous when a cop pulls up behind you? Not even the flashing lights. Like today, I'm driving to the gym, and a car, highway patrolman is right behind me, and for some reason I got nervous, off rip. So my whole thing is, do you think that white people feel that way?
I don't know, but I'm gonna tell you like this: if a cop car comes to my job, and I work in a 4-story building, I get scared every time, and I don't know why. I ain't do nothing, but I get scared every time. Now, when I was in high school back in '93, my mama had a '93 Buick LeSabre, and so I was driving. I was a junior in high school, and we'd be driving to practice, and I have my teammates in there. We got pulled over every day. Pulled over, followed, or harassed every day. My boy Mo, them, they'll tell you. And sometimes we got pulled over, they would have their guns drawn, or they would have their hand on their hip. And I thought that was normal. And the crazy part about it is, I used to be talking cash noise to the cops. That's what we did. We talked trash to the police.
Imagine doing that now.
Right. Seeing all these videos and stuff like that, the Lord was really looked out for me in my life. I mean, because I would cuss the police out quick, because I was never taught this is how you speak to, a cop. They were like.
But should you have to?
Listen, man, I can give you from a psychological perspective, it's about trauma, right? So if you've experienced enough trauma, and you've witnessed trauma, even if you haven't experienced it directly, but you witnessed it enough, then it creates an automatic response for you. And that automatic response often is fear and anxiety when that trigger presents itself. So you can have all of the conversations with your kids, with your brothers, with your cousins, react and respond when law enforcement shows up. And it still might not be good enough. Because you can be very respectful, you can be cautious, you can put both your hands on the steering wheel, you can follow the law to the letter of it, and it does not ensure and or guarantee that you're gonna make it out of there unscathed. And we've seen that
why is
time
the trigger
and time again.
Why is the trigger minorities? Why is because
we don't see, because we are inundated, Johnny, with consistent imagery and images of minorities being treated unfairly by the establishment, by law enforcement, by government, by the criminal justice system.
But what I'm saying is, why are the cops so fearful of us?
Because of the messaging. It's all about messaging, brother. If all you see all day is the association between drugs, crime, violence, and a certain type of people, right? And you consistently label them as such, then you do a couple of things, right? Carter G. Woodson said, if you train someone who's enslaved well enough, right? You won't even have to tell them to go to the back door, right? They'll go to the back door on their own. They'll go to the colored entrance on their own, right? So if I consistently preach that I am superior to you and you are inferior, and then I create an association between your inferiority and all of the things that we believe that you do in more instances than the majority, then guess what? We even start to thugs and savages, as they already have labeled us in that respect.
Well,
So, go ahead, Phil.
Okay. Well, look at it this way as far as why they're so afraid of. Number one, they say that we're violent, and very athletic. So if you look at NFL, you got 75% of the NFL, which is a violent sport, is minority. Look at the NBA, 70% of that minority of the NBA. So we're labeled as violent people. If y'all saw the interview with I don't know if y'all saw it, but Floyd and the officer worked at a club together doing security. And she stated that the officer that had the knee on Floyd, he had a different demeanor when it was urban night. In any other night, he was fine. But when it was urban night, they called in extra security, which I think Greg Lord was a part of, due to the fact that she said they were quicker to pull a taser out than any other night, because they were just fearful for a lot of minorities in one spot.
I'll give you a statistic real quick, right? So we always hear about black on black crime, right? And how, black on black crime is out of control, right? Do you know that 85% of violent crimes that are committed against white people are committed by other white people? And somewhere between 70 to 80% of crimes that are committed by black people are committed by other black people. So if we're not committing crime at a higher percentage against our own than they are against their own, why is black on black crime so much more of an issue, or painted as so much more of an issue than crime that happens when it's white versus white? The reality is that there's more crime committed pertaining to the people that you associate with more than anything else. And there's still a lot of white people associating with white people and black people associating with black people based on demographics, based on geography. So why is the messaging around black on black crime as if it's so heinous and so out of control.
Right.
Because it's about the messaging. It's about the media outlets. It's about grabbing that guy when something goes wrong, grabbing the worst dude to interview, right? Or the worst sister out there. Come here, girl. You got a rag on your head and some pajama pants. You come over here. We want to talk to you about what just happened.
They did that in Tampa. You're right. What'd you say, Joe?
Yeah, so it's the narrative that the media tries to paint, a picture that they try to paint because, basically people kill who they live around. And and I think it's more of a social thing. So if you look at poor black neighborhoods and compared to poor white neighborhoods, the crime rate is pretty much equivalent. It's on the same playing field. There's really no difference because you kill who you live around. But even just growing up, man, like Dukes, like a show like Dukes of Hazzard, like everything on TV for us we were painted as criminals, drug dealers, prostitutes. There was no positive imagery for us at all until the Cosby Show. Like even like Dukes of Hazzard, I'm sitting around rooting for these guys with this Confederate flag on top of their car. I was wondering why my daddy never watched that junk, and I used to be rooting for him. But if you look at Dukes of Hazzard, anytime a black guy was on there, he was stealing something, a criminal that they had to run down. Roscoe Pico, all them guys.
Yeah.
And it was just
Hey, man,
always, that's
good
why,
when they jump in the hills, you be yeah!
exactly. Sounds just like you there, Dre. But it's crazy to me because like when the show, like the Cosby Show came about, as a family, we sat down and we got around that TV as a family and we watched the Cosby Show. And I grew up in a household. I grew up in a household with both my parents, but we weren't the type of family that everybody sat down and we ate dinner at the table together. My mom would cook, it would be on the stove. When you come in there, you fix your plate and you eat. That's how we grew up. But when the Cosby Show came on, our whole family sat down and we watched that show because it was positive imagery for us, something that we had never seen before. And and it's just but if you look at the narrative on TV, like Robert Townsend, he does the Hollywood Shuffle. If you go and you watch that stuff, basically he was talking about the imagery that the media, the picture that they paint. And it's a comedy, but it's legit. Still to this day, we still see that same stuff.
And I'll say I did a workshop about 6 or 7 years, about 6 years ago, and it was talking about social media and the portrayal of Black athletes. So if you ever saw, Sports Illustrated was big, ESPN was big on this. If you ever saw Venus or Serena on the cover of a magazine, they always showed them in a very aggressive stance, like swinging the ball, swinging the racket, face all growled up. And that's how they wanted you to portray Black women, as far as aggressive, strong-minded attitudes, mean. Then you'll see somebody like Capriati or Sharapova win, or they had a portrayal of Black males, as far as you never saw a Black male on the cover with their child. You would see Mark McGuire holding his son, or if you did see a cover, you'd be like, "Where's my daddy?" So that always portrayed the Black athlete as a missing parent. Like,
Chris, you always say this, and and you prove me wrong. You prove me wrong when I say, man, why every Black athlete when they get to the league, they for some reason have the same looking type of wife, and
that's what the media. But that's what the media. You never saw them flash over to Shawnee O'Neal. You never saw them flash over to Cookie. You never see them flash over. They flash over to Gabrielle Union because she's a superstar. But they never flash to those wives. They want America. They want you to think that Black men go run into white women as soon as they gain success. And if you look at the percentage of Black males in NBA or Black athletes that are married to white women, there's a very low percentage. The media paints that picture. Social media wants you to feel that way. And that's what they do. I did a piece on, in that workshop, I put up a mug shot. I just had them, whoever got locked up, I had them in a mug shot. And I asked my group or my audience, I was like, what do you think they did? It'd be a Black dude, dreads, gold teeth. Oh, murder, drugs. They're yelling out stuff. No. driving with a bad driver's license. You know, these are the portrayals that people are, you know, are thinking about these athletes because they are a product of their environment. They dress a certain way. You know, they were talking about Cam Newton and the owner of the Carolina Panthers with his hair. Well, when he came in, I wanted him to cut his hair, so I didn't want him to have any tattoos. I want him to portray this whole image. Now that he has tattoos, now his hair is growing crazy. Now they're saying that could have led to that owner getting Cam up out of there. This is the conversation that they're having because they wanted to portray some type of altar boy, well-groomed Negro. Basically, that's what it is. You know, well-behaved because you don't have tattoos. You know, so, you know, the thing is the portrayal of the media is killing our young men, especially our young athletes.
Listen, man, there are millions of dollars spent on market research and the relationship between imagery and consumers, right? And all kinds of consumers. And what they need to portray to be able to invoke what type of emotion that they're looking for, right? And that does not exclude how the media looks to paint different factions of people based on race, class, socioeconomic status, religious orientation. So if we don't control many, if not any of the media outlets, we can't control the narrative that exists on us as people of color, right? Here's the reality about Mexican Americans, right? The overwhelming majority of Mexican Americans come here looking for better opportunity. They aren't all MS-13s. They all aren't part of drug cartels, right? The overwhelming majority of them come to this country, lives, they work extremely hard, and they are more often than not willing to pay their taxes and be very good members of the community, right? But the narrative is, oh, they're all associated with some form of crime. Crime is spiked in those areas, right? They're here illegally. They're aliens. We label them illegal aliens, which suggests that there's something other than human if they are considered aliens.
Right.
That's the narrative. And then you get your leader, or whoever's leader, whoever claims them as their leader, saying they're rapists and murderers. That's the narrative that they want to continue to perpetuate, man.
So if we going around this thing, because it's been going on for years, you know, getting pulled over, you get nervous, things all of a sudden go left quick when you get pulled over. What do we tell our kids? How do we communicate to our kids? I seen this other video yesterday where there was a guy and an older man yelling. It was a 30-year-old man against like a 50-year-old man, and he was going back and forth. He grabbed a 16-year-old. He said, "Yo, we not doing it right. Y'all got to do better." What does doing it better look like?
You know what's crazy? Before anybody answers that, that's actually one of the refs that refs our high school basketball games.
Word? The old man or the 30-year-old?
The young dude. And listen,
wow.
fam, some of the assistant coaches on the staff feel like he can't stand him. They be like, man, that dude, when we see him coming through the door, they be like, oh, man, here we got goodness gracious about it.
Hey, we're going to bring you on a referee show. You and Joe can hang out on that one.
Nah, fam.
We got a whole bunch of those refs around here.
Man, don't do it. Please don't do it, man.
Hey, check this out. So tell me this. Answer this. Why is it okay to kneel now? Why is that accepted? I'm just curious because it wasn't accepted 2 years ago. Like, why is that? Why are people so? Why is that? Why is it taken so? Like, if people didn't know they were wrong, if they didn't know they were wrong, they wouldn't do it. Like,
right. The whole police staff did it.
They should have did it then.
All right. So you're saying why is it okay to kneel? I mean, when they were kneeling was a national anthem playing? Because we still don't know if that's okay. They was just kneeling just to kneel. Like, that's
But we
That's
know
true. That's true.
but we know what it represents.
But
Like we know where it came.
let's see if kneeling is allowed when his national anthem is playing. That's when we'll know.
Hey, listen, man. The national anthem has nothing to do with patriotism. That's another misnomer, right? The idea that we are attaching an anthem that in its full understanding is not inclusive, if you listen to the second stanza or the second verse of it, has nothing to do with you being a patriot, right? Patriotism is in your actions, not that you would stand there and hold your hand over your heart or behind your back or remove your hat when the national anthem is playing, right? So that again is, you know, sort of the messaging. And at NFL games, if the Department of Defense didn't pay the NFL to show the flag and play the national anthem, they didn't used to do it. They didn't used to do it.
Actually, the players did not come on the field until afterwards.
Well, you know, now they're saying they're going to fine them. Once the season starts, if you kneel, you will be fined. That's what the NFL stated last.
But they have given them the option of not coming out, right? So what they did was they don't want that imagery and that messaging because it's harmful for their fans. Here we go with that again. You can just stay in the locker room.
But like what Joe just said, do you think they'll allow it now?
Nope. I haven't watched the NFL in about 3 years now, and look, I still don't think it'll be acceptable.
I said it then and I say it now. Cap was on the right side of history, man.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, he's on the right side of history.
It's gonna bite the NFL in the butt now, as far as publicity.
And that's the sad piece, because now you say this could have been nipped in the bud then. Like this could have been controlled then. This conversation, I mean, he tried to start the conversation. There are many people tried to start the conversation. When they held the fists up, that was a conversation starter. That was 68?
Yeah. This year was 2 years ago was the 50th anniversary of what they did in 28. Yeah.
Come on, man. This conversation has been going on for years.
But what do we do? What do we do? How do you police the police?
So and here was my thing, and I could be wrong. So I was bigger on Malcolm X and how he said the March on Washington, and how JFK was sent people out to stop the March on Washington. And I'm big on it. I believe it. He sent people to stop the March on Washington or slow it down, and they came back and they said, man, it's moving. It's too big. They said, well, Malcolm X said, well, how do you weaken black coffee? You add some cream to it. So how do you weaken the movement? You add some cream to it, because it started off as strong. It started off as a strong, powerful movement.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to what people there, but the intentions was to weaken it, to weaken that movement, to make it more of a peaceful demonstration.
But when people see a group of minorities, let's say a group of black people get together for something that they feel is positive, they automatically flip it into something negative and something that is going to get dangerous, something that get violent.
That's fear.
How does that stop?
You want to part of how that stops is us being able to be in a better position to control our own narrative, right? And I think that social media and instant media images and videos have helped to change the course of some of that, right? There was a white guy that said that he was brutalized through this riot piece. Come to find out, the cat was out there with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, I seen that, yeah.
Right? So years ago, somebody might have said, oh man, look at that. Look at those hoodlums. Look at those thugs, those animals, and what they did to them. Nah, homie was out there pointing a bow and arrow at people, making attempts to harm them. So they addressed that. The other thing that we need to do is, locally, our police chiefs, our mayors, our elected officials, right? They impact the culture of what is going on in our neighborhoods. So we also have to speak through our ability to vote for those individuals who have our best interests at heart, right? And if you're living in a town where those local officials don't have your best interests at heart, then they're going to create a culture, and their staff, from their police chief to their police officers to the district attorneys to their prosecutors, are going to behave in the interest that suits those leaders. So that's also a way that we address what needs to happen, right? And I know it sounds corny, but for how it is right now, that's what we got, and we got to deal with it more seriously. Young people don't show up for local elections in the same way that they do for national elections, and some of that has to change.
Yeah,
And the responses, you look at the lady that was in the Central Park, the young man that was bird watching, and the lady tried to say he was being very aggressive towards her. I mean, like little things like that. If it weren't for him having that camera, his phone recording every piece of it, he might be locked up right now. You know, but the response to that and the video showed that he wasn't doing that. You know, video is saving a lot of people. You know, social media people putting social media clips out is saving a lot of people and showing people for what they are and what they're doing. And I think harsher penalties for people that are making accusations like that they should be harsher. Like, people should be punished
and that's
as if they're stealing something.
And that's how we police the police. You know, just keep filming, keep the cameras running, because you know, it has become a fad. Anytime somebody's pulled over or anything, people pull their phones out and they start filming. You know, and it's you know, and the fad is a big part of the narrative. Like, we deal with the youth, and the youth listen to a lot of music. And if you think about back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, we had a lot of conscious rap. You know, I know I was listening to Grand Nubian, XN. I was like, Grand Verbalizer, what time is it? You know, I was heavy into it. But then we had gangster rap hit, and it changed everything. You know what I'm saying? And then you had the trap music era, and then you know, and if a guy makes a conscious album now, they're not really making money like that. That's not gonna be played on the radio. That's not, you know what I'm saying? So why do it? You know what I'm saying? So the kids are gonna listen to what's on the radio, what's hot, and what's hot is talking about this crazy stuff, and you know, and that's what it's gonna be. I mean, we listen to it. I listen to Pop. Yeah, you know, I listened to a whole lot of Pop. Pop was talking about a whole lot of crazy stuff, but I knew it was music. I knew it was entertainment. I wasn't gonna go out there and do what Pop do. I mean, I might drink me a little Thug Passion, but that's about as far as that was gonna go. You know what I'm saying? But you know, it's just and us dealing with the youth, man. That's one of the reasons I do it. Not only do I have a son, but that's why I'm so invested in this thing, because the youth is that future, man. That's what we gotta help.
Yo, totally unrelated, and I don't root for another black man losing his job, but I just got a message that said Jason Whitlock got fired today.
Hey, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad about that.
Why'd he get fired? What'd he do?
I don't know, but your man be on TV going crazy. He be wow.
I can't stand it, man.
I heard that it was contract negotiations or something.
Oh, they didn't go right.
But on the note, what Joe was talking about, after our generation, you know, people that are 70s kids, you know, and probably early 80s kids, these young kids generation, I'm pretty sure I don't know where our history is gonna go as far as our history. You know, just admiring our ancestors and people who fought for us, you know, as we go through this process. So this generation, I think majority of them are gonna be lost up.
Yeah, I mean, John, you on mute, John.
My bad. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like that earlier when you talk about the '80s generation, and you know, I just want to say this real quick. Y'all already know, but I just want to say to some people who follow. A lot of people always think on my coach page I spelled it Coach Joe Philon, and people always are saying, you know, you spelled coach wrong. I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm a coach. See, because I grew up in the I grew up in that crack era and the mass incarceration era. Now, I wasn't directly impacted by it because I had both my family, and both my mom and dad in the house. I didn't have, nobody was addicted to drugs or anything, but I went to the West Tampa Boys and Girls Club, and I saw a lot of guys that were impacted during that era, whether it was mass incarceration, whether it was the crack era, or what have you. And I saw the coaches at the West Tampa Boys and Girls Club take these kids under their wing, make sure they had something to eat. If they went to juvie, they went and picked them up. You know, it was just so much more than the coach. You go see your coach when you're in school, when you go to PE. Your coach is different. Your coach is going to talk to teachers. Your coach going to make sure your coach might even be hitting your mama or something like that, because some mom was doing it for that reason. You know, but, you know, a coach was, you know, it was just different, man. And, you know, that's what I aspire to be, man. In these days and time, we need a whole lot more coaches out there. And
then that's why I think it's very important that we speak out and speak up and play more of an impact. You know, I don't see myself as just, like you said, a basketball coach.
Right. And real quick,
I don't see myself as a coach, period, because
right.
You know, when you can pay somebody $8.50 an hour and you label them a coach, and then I'm asking for $150 an hour. I'm sorry, we're on a whole nother level. Like, we're not on the same level. I'm more of a mentor. I'm a leader. I'm not going to be your friend. I'm gonna hold you accountable. And if we don't have things, if we can't impact our own community and have conversations with these kids to make them uncomfortable, just outside of the basketball court. I mean, because on the basketball court, you run them, you do a whole bunch of things to make them uncomfortable. Listen, you should make them uncomfortable socially. You have to. Have to prepare.
Overall, we have seen a sort of slow deterioration of coaching, accountability, right? Holding, making sure kids are responsible. And culturally, what we end up with is more coaches that are wanting to be friends and sustain the relationships because they can't afford for kids to leave their program and go somewhere else because that person has helped them to win regardless of the cost of the winning, right? So what we end up with are individuals who are willing to let kids get away with things that under no circumstance. I've never had any coach allow some of these kids to get away with, and or their parents, right? I coach 5th grade basketball. I got 2 5th grade teams, and we just started that as an extension of our football program. And I make no bones about it to my parents. Listen, I don't play the if my kid don't play, you're going to take him and leave, and we're going to go to another program. Okay, cool. If that's what you're going to do, then that's what you're going to do. Period. Right? Playing time is earned. Playing time is earned. It is not gained any other way. We're the Men Hill Chargers. The Men Hill Chargers, man. The Men Hill Chargers. Chargers right outside of
we need to see you then.
Hey, listen, baby, bro. I'm with all that. I want all that smoke.
He was gonna come down, Dre. He was gonna come down May 16th, man.
I am not here. Johnny will tell you, I am not here to hide from anybody, because there's just as much to learn from winning as there is to losing, right?
Hey, Joe went down to shot. Where'd you go, Joe? Where'd you play when you went to North Carolina?
I went to Raleigh.
Raleigh. Yeah. Okay.
And let's be clear, I got some killers, B. Okay, I got some wolves out there.
They might be killers. They might be killers on the football field, but
no, sir. No. Listen. I got a lot of dual athlete kids, man. And my young boys, look, listen, the only guarantees I'm going to make, because this is what I require of them. If you play for me, you're going to play hard.
Right.
Hey,
I'm not coaching your effort.
Hey, we got to say it to me. Hey, because all those parents that you just got me talking about and players, bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
Hey,
listen.
Hey, that's
hey, say what's up,
my boy. What up, boy?
Here go one of my hitters right here, baby.
What's up, nephew?
Real quick, because Chris knocked me off my soapbox. But
My bad, dog. My bad.
the reason I say the term coach, the reason it's pronounced coach, is because the moms and dads were taken out of the household and the grandparents raised the kids. And the grandparents down here in the South, they have an accent. So instead of saying
Watch.
they say coach or quatch.
Got
Giles called, my mom says it. Coach Giles called the baby boomers. That's the term that they use. And
I was gonna say you can still hear it now. Some of the grandmamas. You're right.
Yep.
Joe,
Maybe your coach called.
Austin somewhere. Where you from, Joe?
I'm from Tampa, born and raised.
My grandpa still say teacher. Your teacher came by here.
Yo, but you know, real talk, and I say that with my parents right now. You know, I've always coached like that. If we ever have a basketball conversation, there's no sense in your child being on my team. Like we're talking about educating and preparing young men. You know, if you want me to coach them, you want me to take them out of town, you want me to feed them, you want me to show them a good time. So we've always had that conversation. We talk about using sports to develop these young people and prepare these young people. You know, it's by any means necessary. The conversation should be uncomfortable. That people, coaches right now, every high school coach, college coach, youth coach should be having a conversation with their kids right now. They should be checking on them. I sent my kids, I got an alumni group from Hillsborough. I sent a text out to them, a group chat text out to them, say, hey, look, y'all boys be safe. You know, stay woke. You know, don't be silly. You know, make sure you understand your surroundings. You know what you're doing out there, so make sure you're prepared. That's what it's about. If you can't impact your community, if you can't impact the people that are right there in front of you, there's no way this is going to ever change. Because on both sides, mindsets have to change.
But that's what I think. And that's what I think, Chris. And I think we all do it for the right reason. You know, Kendell been watching what we do with the Skill Center for a long time. And, I mean, he's even said, yo, y'all got a lot of teams that y'all sponsor. And we never even, you know, of course we want to be like that. However, the impact that we have in our community, I think, says a lot. When you got somebody all the way in North Carolina watching what we're doing, be like, yo, that's pretty good. And I think that's how we can make our impact. But I think we got to do a little bit more. Like, I know you do a lot with your kids outside of the game. Joe understands it and goes everywhere whether they're in school, he knows that they're failing, he knows they're in trouble. Dre, the parent, you got 2 teams over there, 3 teams that the parents contact him all the time. I think we got to continue that. And if this conversation, you know, we're gonna close out, but this conversation has to be where how do we touch, how do we change? It starts with everybody we touching every day. And it can't just be about the game. It got to be about the situation. That's why, you know, like Joe said, when JoJo came home and said, I want to be one. It was a time that, you know, Junior, the schools that he go to, he don't see a whole lot of us. But then when he go to the Skill Center, he get that piece. So my whole thing is I was blessed to be raised in a military home where I was in Europe, I was in Oklahoma, I'm in Florida, I was in Puerto Rico. Like, I can walk into any venue and feel comfortable. And I think that's one of the problems. I don't think some Caucasians don't feel comfortable with us, and some minorities may not feel comfortable with some Caucasians. So we got to how to mold that into what they feel comfortable.
It's okay to say white people, John. That's politically correct.
That's what you just said at the beginning. Like, yo, we got to be mindful of what we say.
It's okay to say. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
okay to say. Yeah, it's okay to say black. It's okay to say.
Yeah, it's okay to say that. And that's what people they get scared of that. Like,
Kendell, they call me Chico down here, Kendell. They call me Chico down here, man.
I'm mad, Chico. What up, Chico?
So my question is, you say when Junior go to the Skill Center, he see a bunch of us. What are you referencing?
See, there you go with us. I didn't say us. Did I say that? Rewind.
You said us.
Minorities, dog. Minorities.
But that's how we have to do it, you know. And if we want to tackle this situation, we're gonna have to tackle it by educating people. And you know, and that puts the fear. You talking about, you know, I told Tyson I wanted to see him walk across that stage in Fargo, North Dakota, because I know what my father went through at the University of Florida in 1965. 2 blacks graduating. He couldn't play ball. He couldn't live on campus. So, that's a proud moment. I don't want people just to see him as an athlete. I don't want to see people just say, oh, he's just here to go to school for basketball. I want them to see, and that puts fear in people. Don't get it twisted. Anytime you see, and I'm going to give it like this, anytime you see an educated black sister, strong black sister, you think she mean, you think she this, you think she that. People fear that. So just think about the male, educated, extremely educated, prepared. People fear that, man. They fear it, and they want to keep you in your place.
I'm gonna let y'all three close it out. But also, it's also that some minorities may think that being educated, you can't be cool neither. You know what I'm saying? And I tell my kids at the housing authority, I say, bro, like, you got to learn to be able to maneuver in any situation. Just because I come to work and I do this and I do that, that doesn't mean I don't hang out and kick it when I'm at home and I don't talk a certain way, things like that. You got to learn to use it when it's the right thing. But go ahead, Dre.
They have to see it all the time.
I think that comes with maturity. I think that comes with maturity because some get it now, but some don't get it until they are done and well in their mid-20s and almost 30. So eventually they'll come around.
Yeah, I think with me, man, and I know we got to close out. I know we're running out of time, and we probably need to pick this up again next week. But with me, man, when I was a kid, we were going to West Tampa Elementary, McFarland. If somebody spoke proper, or if somebody got good grades, they'll say things like, "Look at Joe trying to act white." You know what I'm saying? And you ain't want to be acting white. So, well, they ain't said it to me because my grades weren't that good. But I'm just saying I've heard other people say it. You know what I'm saying? So, but that was something that you didn't want to be, man. And it was always, and when you think about it, that's the dumbest thing ever. And I'm so proud that my son is, he's well spoken. He gets all A's. But he's still cool. You know what I'm saying? I chaperoned one of his field trips one time. He was in the Cambridge program. They had to wear the Oxford shirts and all that stuff. Everybody else had the different shirts. And we were sitting on the bus waiting, and they were coming in line, and they were like, "Oh, here come the nerds." And then JoJo get on the bus, and he do his little, that little thing they do. Like, he didn't care nothing about that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's confidence. That's confidence.
Right.
But
I would have been not doing what I'm supposed to do because I'm worried about what they talking about. You know what I'm saying? I'm just so glad he's not like that.
Right.
But that's just like, it goes back to what Kendell was saying, systematic.
Yep.
It's systematic. It's keeping you enslaved mentally. It's enslaving you. You don't want, you want people ignorant. You don't want to educate people. You don't want them to know too much. And that's where it goes. So you portray things like that. You put things out like that. Why do you think? And we can get, this is a whole nother conversation. Look at the marijuana stuff that's going on right now. It spent so much time putting so much money into making marijuana so bad, and you can't do this, and locking people up for it. Now, what's one of the hottest things that you want to invest in? Just saying. I mean, everything is systematic. So, trying to educate kids and prepare them and doing the right thing. There's a right way to go about protesting. There's a right way to go about it.
I think one thing is
that leads to voting.
We got to keep this conversation going, though. We can't just stop it. Kendell, any last statements, any last things?
Well, I think that overall, man, number one, I want to say thank y'all for having me. Great conversation, fellas. I am a fan from afar, and I tell Johnny this all the time, man. I think the movement that y'all created is amazing, right? And I think that from that, there are going to be so many young men whose future and in the course of their future has been changed forever, right? Because they have strong men around them to show them the way, to be tough on them, hold them accountable, but also very tangible models of what strong men, strong family men look like. And I think that that's enormous for them in setting the stage for their future. And they may not understand it now, but certainly they will understand it later as they mature. So certainly want to let you all know that, y'all got to keep it going because you set a precedent. And at this point, I'm gonna put pressure on y'all to let you know that y'all can't afford to stop, because you are impacting your community in such a strong way. And we got to create some balance with all the negative influences. The positive influences have to make an attempt to drown all of that out. You know, that's the first thing I want to say. Number two, I think that, you know, this is more of a message for the players who will watch this, right? I tell my kids all the time, you play how you live, right? And if you are selfish as a person, you'll play that way, right? If you're self-absorbed, if you're not about a team, it shows up at some point, right? If you aren't educated, if you don't have a high IQ in terms of the skill, in terms of the game, then it will show up. And if you have the skill and the IQ, it creates a level of consciousness on the basketball court that makes it feel like you're moving in slow motion. It's the same thing in life. You educate yourself, you heighten your sense of consciousness, you create a sense of yourself, you define yourself and don't allow other people to define you, then you're on your way. And your life looks different. It's vastly different.
It's funny you say that, man, because I've been saying it for years, and my boys, they're watching this, they'll attest to it. You can learn a lot about a guy about his basketball game. I'm talking about guys who can play, like, you know, they can actually play. I ain't talking about like a first time on the court. Guys who actually can play, you can look at a guy's basketball game, and I can give you an idea of that person's character, man. How they are. It's crazy that not really character, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. All right, man. We definitely got to keep the movement, keep talking, man. I appreciate everybody.
No doubt.
All right, fellas.
Man, appreciate you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Hey, Drake, we coming for that smoke, baby.
All right, fellas.
Go get it. Go get it.